everybody. Welcome to the Disruptors. We are not going to, thank you. We are not going to do introductions because Google, and it's on your app, but I will say briefly, Brian runs Denver, Greg runs the Upper Midwest, Travis runs the Inside Artist Pipeline, and John created the market on country music face tattoos. Last year, fake number ones, the phrase infamously dropped by Mr. Travis Daly.
And here we are, and nothing's changed, Chuck. So.
Here we are, and nothing's changed. So, Brian, what's a fake number one mean to you? And please name names.
Oh God, John. No, I'm not gonna. I don't want to beat this dead horse again, but take Ella Langley. You know, she was number one for 8 weeks, I think, straight on the all genre chart at Billboard. So certainly we would think she would be number one in her own format for all of those 8 weeks. But that's not what has happened on our chart. So I think we've been, as programmers, complicit on playing a game with, the spins do happen, but it's where they happen.
So our good friend Billy Ray McKim crunched some numbers for us and found that spin redistribution from songs that are dropping out of number one used to aggregate throughout the chart and lately have been aggregating at the top of the chart, where we sort of created a cycle. We're tightly wound up there at the top, which keeps everything going slower. And I just want to ask Greg, are fake number ones or that clog at the top of the chart or throughout the chart, is that a symptom of the business losing focus on building artists' careers?
100%, because in a real world, if an artist you really believed in had a number one record, presumably there'll be another single coming, you might want to think about taking those spins that you just put on that number one record and put them on the artist's next record. That's not what happens. Everybody just looks at number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, we got to move them up. It's just logical. That must be the next big hit record. And it turns out this is why we keep this never-ending cycle of sometimes mediocre records being number one, instead of supporting the artist that you really believed in and transferring the spins to that next project.
So are we failing to grow superstars because we're not rejecting enough baby acts, or are we filling the chart with baby acts because we're not doing as good a job of building the top line of artists? John?
I mean, I was the one that advocated not addressing this because, like Travis said, it never changes. There are many reasons why the fake number ones, or whatever you call them, have value. No sense in getting into it. The biggest thing for me is our charts are slow as shit already. There is some sort of artificial momentum created as songs are cycling through, and you said, okay, you had this week, we have next week. I think without that, they slow down even more, if that's possible. So I think, I'm a label guy. By the way, how am I the only label guy with 3 radio guys?
Just lucky, I guess.
Why I wanted to be on this panel is because these guys are such disruptors in their own right and really taking steps to build careers and to elevate superstars and to shake up the system. So I don't know if I have the answer for you, Chuck.
Travis, is there any utility to a number one for an artist, even for radio, even if it's not necessarily the hottest song for listeners in that moment? Is there any utility to that you see?
I don't know. Shit, man, here we are again. What else is on that list?
All right.
Seriously.
All right.
I mean,
all right. So
I could go the next 4 days on this. What else you got over there?
Tell me what you're doing on your station and how you know it's working.
Okay. So although it seems like I get a lot of press on this and I'm kind of the face of it, real talk, John Dimmick and I, it's interesting that it's called disruption because I feel like we're just doing what you're supposed to do, man. John Dimmick and I sat in a room and we were like, there are 5 country stations in Nashville, Tennessee. There are 10 or 11 stations that play Morgan Wallen in some form or fashion. And so we're just looking for what is the lane to win. And so, okay, you can call it disruption, but I think we looked at it and we're like, what is nobody else doing? What can we do that will be compelling and different and connect to this community? The community, by the way, where all of the music is made. And so our competitors, when we looked at it, you know, they play the same 15 songs in a town where there's thousands written and made every day. So I think a lot of companies would have been, and I'm truly grateful that, look, man, I don't know who y'all are working for, but you need to come to Cumulus, because it is not like everywhere else. We look at every situation individually, and we find out how we can kick somebody's ass. And that's what all of you should be doing. And that's where this kind of came from, was what is the lane? And so right now at this moment, any given week, we've got 80 to 100 album cuts on the air. We're playing more album cuts than singles, and it's going really well. But I think it's not just about the music, it's about what is the talent that fits the strategy, because you can play all the cool music you want. If you've got a bunch of nut hut zookeepers that can't keep up with it, the station's not going to do very well. So in this one particular situation, we felt like we needed, you know, the people that could kind of talk the most shit, and we brought Jesse here, and he's certainly that guy. The great Lucas Phelan is absolutely that guy. And then, look, man, I'm uncomfortable talking about it, but if you need a guy that's going to call the competition live on the air and prove they don't answer their request line, and they do everything through a recorded app and make fun of everything, including merch, to make fun of the other guys, which we're just having fun. Quit being so sensitive. The whole plan was disruption. I'll use that word, but the truth is the whole plan was just to win. What is the lane that nobody else is in? And by the way, we put 100 unfamiliar records on the air, and it's going really well. So I just don't, we'll get into this more, Brian, I know, but I don't accept this argument of, oh, let's just play the same. I think a lot of companies, that's why I'm telling you, Cumulus is where it's at. A lot of companies would have been, well, we should probably tighten up and play the best 4 testing currents, and we'll just tighten down, and that's how we'll go to victory. That's not what happened. And I'm very grateful that the people I work for are not soft or afraid to take chances to do compelling stuff.
My first thought when I saw the names that were going to be on this panel, I thought, what could go wrong? I would say, too, is we have got to get out of, similar to what he's saying, stop programming to a panelist. One single panelist does not mean you're gaining audience. Start programming to your audience. Build brand equity.
Agree. Every market is different. So what can you do in your market to be compelling, different, connect?
So, but everybody can't go work for Cumulus. I mean, unless you guys.
Well, you
opened
could.
up.
Let us know when your deals are up.
So, Greg, how do you convince bosses up the chain in the market on a corporate level that risks are worth taking if you have been through several rounds of layoffs and you're afraid to stick your head up too far because it might get cut off?
Do tell, Greg.
Okay.
Careful.
No, look, here's, again, it's a hell of a lot harder to manage 150 radio stations than it is to manage 5 or 10. So you have to have systems in place, and you have to be able to do it. What I will tell everybody, and I know you're going to go shake your head and Swedberg's full of shit, but the bottom line is, which might be true, but if you really, like inside of iHeart, if you really believe in something, and if you really believe in a project or an artist, and you're willing to stick your neck out and go ahead and, because I've had corporate bosses saying there's a million right ways to program a radio station, pick one. And if you're willing to be passionate about what you do, you can do it. I mean, the myth is that, well, somehow we can't do that. You can't do that inside a heart. Well, you can do it. Hell, K102, there's been so many times we've played songs that nobody wanted us to play or bothered. I hearken back to Carletta Blake in Cleveland, where she basically busted the George Burge record all by herself, stuck her neck out, and said, this is what I believe in. And literally, we told her, you're going to get left alone. You're the only one who's going to be able to do this. She goes, I don't care. I'm going to do it. And so she did. And so you are allowed to do that inside a large structure like iHeart, but you have to have the balls and the commitment and the vision. You have to explain why this is going to work. And you should be able to explain that if you really believe in it. So you just do it. I mean.
And from where I sit, often when you think you're playing it safe, that's actually the riskiest thing you could be doing. My pet peeve over the last 2 or 3 years is we as a label industry are always really good about educating about metrics and measurements and why they're so important. And it takes a while, but radio starts going there, and then the scales tip so far the other way that you take out any gut, any intuition. And I say all the time, if all radio is doing is magnifying streaming hits, you may think that's safe, but it is incredibly risky. You're just making yourself a dinosaur. You're eliminating yourself, because AI or a spreadsheet can take care of that. I was talking to a programmer yesterday, and he was talking about a different genre where the audience and the programmers are so passionate about music. And he said, even within that group of guys and girls, I tell them, if you hear a song, you're at a showcase, whatever, go communicate that excitement on the air. Connect the audience with the artist and the station in a way that streaming cannot. And I think radio has just given up, in many cases, that leadership position. We used to go to CRS, get fired up about an act or two or whatever, and then be on air and tell everybody not just about the song, but who that artist was. There was personal interaction. That's what makes this genre so special, and I feel like we've given it away. Some of the stuff Travis is doing is moving back in that direction. But
Can I add to that? And I'll try and watch my mouth, Chuck, I promise. I agree with what you're saying, and I also, and maybe this will start a totally different conversation, I don't think that streaming is not a tool, but I think, to kind of echo what John said also, radio are the original tastemakers, and we have gotten away from that. And I still believe we are the most powerful medium in the world. There's a Luke Combs album that is going to drop here within hours. Everybody in this room has a choice. You can go through that album and pick out some really cool stuff from it and not care what the singles are and do something cool and compelling with it because that's what your audience wants. Or you can sit at your desk and wait for Spotify to do whatever with it. I don't think we should give a shit what streaming's doing. In fact, you know what? I know that last year I suggested a panel. I'll give you another one for next year, Chuck. We should do playlisting, algorithms, and streaming fuckery, and I'll be more than happy to volunteer for that. I'm not saying streaming's not a tool, and no disrespect if there's streaming people in the room. Look, I get you got a job to do, but I don't know why we're following that.
Right.
We are the original tastemakers. Take that back. That is within your power. That's what fixes it.
And just to pile a little more on that, because I have a lot of opinions about why he's 100% right, but what we have really lacked is vision about where the hell we're going and what we're doing. And some of it is because the music business and the radio business are two different businesses. And the business model in the music business is that we need to get a whole bunch of artists streaming and touring because we make money that way. And we, in the radio business, have a different agenda, which is we need stars to be able to point to a billboard with a picture of Jason Aldean on it and go, that's what we play. And right now we have so many different things coming at us and from different sides and new things, and superstar releases get delayed because we have other releases we have to put out and we want to slow down, and the chart has slowed down, so that's partially caused it. But I would urge everybody to go and find 40 artists that you believe in. Just find 40. By the way, it's not hard. You have a hard time actually kind of cutting it down to 40. But then stand up and believe it and play that stuff. And if something comes along that's so damn good that it bumps something else out, then bump it out and then change your 40. But if we have no focus, back in the 90s and zeros when we were pretty focused about who the artists were, we did better. And right now it's confusing, if not to radio programmers, certainly to the audience, about what we actually really believe in. And if we would just stand up and say, this is one of my artists, this artist works with us, and fortunately, there's plenty of artists that still do want to work with country radio. This is what we're going to support, and which is not say ignore all the other stuff. I'm just saying that we just lack focus, and I think the audience is kind of seeing that.
And we're talking to radio here quite a bit. But John, I want to say to you too, what is label's complicity in some of the narrow thinking? And I don't necessarily mean your label, but what do you say to your people and to your colleagues in the label world? Like, how do we encourage different thinking and things that move the needle and get out? What is the complicity in sort of, keeping everything in
Well,
a one channel?
I don't lecture other labels because why should they listen to me? I do try to lead by example and deepen the DNA of our company, is shining a light or giving a voice to those who have not typically had it, to try to broaden this genre, to try to bring art that has not been supported and put in front of the listener, in front of our partners. So, and that goes all the way back to Jason Aldean. When we were releasing music, everybody's like, it's fucking Metallica country, whatever. And we had to fight through that. Everybody, Lainey Wilson obviously is a country act, no doubt. But when we signed her, the sound of female country was very different. It was much more pop, visually even. It had a pop presentation. So that was a risk. And then, of course, Jelly. So with those successes, the staff, believed more and more. I always say icons come from the fringes. And as you look at changes in music moments, whether it was the neo-traditional in the 90s, Aldean changing, the genre to a more rock sound, Jelly having a wider sound, and Lainey, it's just been about taking those chances, which, when everybody's like, oh, you're a risk taker, to your point, Travis, I'm like, no, I'm just trying to find a different lane.
But did anyone 5 years ago have on their bingo card we would have artist separation challenges with guys named Jelly Roll and Shabuzi? I mean, think about that. The format's like, what? Jelly Roll? Shabuzi? We played the songs. I remember early 2024 when we were playing Shabuzi, and people hadn't heard of Shabuzi, and there were other programmers that were like, are you crazy? And I said, can't you hear that? Play the songs. I think the format, we would all agree, the format's more exciting with Jelly Roll and Shabuzi in it, right? It's okay to take chances. It makes the format better.
We're going to go to questions at some point later on, so you should be there's probably info up on how to text in a question, so be aware of that. So what happens when you take big swings and miss, Brian? How do you handle that?
Well, I don't know that you can quantify the misses, if there's a miss or not.
Define miss.
Yeah, that's right. Define miss. And here's the thing: you have a bigger risk. It's actually, if you don't take the risk, what are you going to miss? Because you're not growing the audience, and you're not standing for what you believe. Your station has to stand for something. Your brand has to stand for something. And so I do think you have to, like Greg said, you have to play these songs. And if you're just going to park it in the overnight, what are you doing? Why bother?
Well, there's too much of that. I mean, it gets back into the complicity that radio has with the music business, where we kind of just wait around for the next song we're told to play, by and large, which is stupid. And again, I get it. There's a lot of people who are kind of new to the format, and some people are in corporate environments where I'm not quite sure where I'm at yet, which is cool. That's absolutely, we've all been there. Everybody who's fairly new to the format, we've been there. But you do have to just decide what's important, and then do it. Just it's not a risk to play a different Luke Combs cut. That's not super risky. But it's viewed that way. Well, I wanted an up-tempo song from Cody Johnson. I knew they were going to do the fall, so instead we played Made in the USA. Took a bunch of spins right away. Rammed it to like it was our best testing record over the summer, and the 4th of July playing Made in the USA. That's not a risk. That's not like disruptive. That's just doing the right thing. And again, the problem with it is that, like I said, too much information. The number of songs we get, the number of artists that we get gets very confusing. And so I think that, again, you got to simplify.
Travis, how do you decide between what you have called texture records and whether they're unsigned or less familiar artists versus, putting in the extra Luke Combs or Megan Maroney track? Like, how do you find a balance there? And what have you found that works? What do the listeners respond to?
I mean, that is kind of the trick, right? to add on to Greg's point, though, I think the risk is not doing what the audience expects. I think that might be our biggest disconnect. The audience expects to discover new music. We just have done a terrible job until recently, and it's in our power to take that back. But to answer your question, I'm very thankful. My kid works part-time for us, and I bet on any given week, on average, we're listening to 60 to 80 songs. And we just put them in piles that are cool enough to be on KDF, maybe, probably not. And we look at what we're playing every week, and if there's something stronger than what we're playing, it might be weakest one out, strongest 2 or 3 in. We're not following any normal rules. We're not, this is not a, well, we got to keep this in medium for 25 weeks, and then we wait for John Loba to tell us they're going for #1 9 months from now. We don't do any of that. It's literally kind of on feel, and we certainly have new metrics. You know, DTS can help you find the music lane. I wouldn't use it to program your radio station, but it can help you find the lane for sure. And so we look at the balance of, you know, what types of records we go through. Like when Megan Moroney dropped an album, we started off with 9 things. Now we're down to like 4. But those other 5 are going to move back in. We might keep something in a month. We might keep it in. John knows. And by the way, you're super cool about it. Not everybody is. Like John's like, yeah, I get it. Some people are like, what are you doing? You're affecting the single. Okay, I don't work for you. You know, so you know, a lot of it is just feel. What is missing from the playlist? Is there something that's blowing up socially? I try not let streaming influence me, man, because I think if you don't know exactly what you're looking at in streaming, and that's not a knock against them, if you don't know exactly what you're looking at, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble.
Okay, you just changed subjects, so I want to go on this because I have a definitive opinion on this too. Streaming is like Target. There's an aisle of stuff on this side, an aisle of stuff on this side, and you start walking down the aisle, and you're exposed to all those things. And I see there's toilet paper, and I see these things, but in a stream, I'm exposed to all these records, right? So I hear this, I hear that, I hear that. It shows up as a streaming statistic, like that's a stream. It doesn't say that anyone liked any of things or actually put anything in their cart. The streaming statistics that we get from the labels, that's what I'm talking about. Now the labels, of course, get all the statistics. They know how many people saved that record to collection. They know how many times it got played from the collection. They also know how many times it got skipped in the collection. And I would challenge our label partners to give us that information and make it ubiquitous, and then we can make decisions on whether something's really streaming or not, or whether it was just a really good relationship you had with your streaming partner to get that on the playlist in the first place. So, again, if we got full information, and I know Brian is smarter than all of us because he gets a lot of this stuff.
Definitely is.
So, but until we get that, I have no idea why the hell we listen to any streaming information. Why? It doesn't matter. They weren't listening to my radio station at the time. They were doing something else, and I know they were exposed to it, but I don't know what they think of it. I don't know how many they... Remember back in the day, you would go to the record store, buy the record, put it on, play it about 1 million times at home, and it was your favorite thing to do, and eventually got bored and went out and bought another record. Now they get all the damn records. I just want to know which ones they really like. And there's no way, with all the streaming statistics we get, we have no idea what the hell they really like because we don't get that information.
I will say in defense of the streamers, the relationship aspect of it is much less impactful with respect to whatever numbers you're seeing. Might get on a certain playlist because of it, but if it's not hitting algorithms, if it's not doing what they expect, it's not there for long.
Do you have people who work the DSPs?
Absolutely, we
Okay.
do. Yep.
And by the way,
I'm just telling you, in reality, it is a little bit different.
And by the way, like streaming ain't going to help an artist sell an arena. True or false? There are some exceptions.
There are some exceptions.
Radio's
like
still where
3.
it's at.
Absolutely.
So who cares?
I
what
just
they're
say
doing?
different streaming platforms as well have different audiences that they're targeting to, different than radio. I mean, Spotify is alpha and Z, so you're leaving out a large portion of your listenership.
So how do we know what the listeners like, Brian? What tools do we have to be able to tell whether we're winning or not? And is it, a handful of meters in a market?
Well, you've got a number of things now. Obviously, you can do your own research if you have that budget. I get it. A lot of people aren't going to have the kind of budget to do those things. But now, I mean, the treasure trove of data that DTS AutoStage has unlocked for every market. I mean, there are more cars reporting back in Macon, Georgia, than there are PPM panelists in New York and Los Angeles combined. So let that sink in about the data you're looking at. And I can tell you, if you look at the new music that Travis is playing, and we look at it too, the listeners aren't scared of new music. And again, this is a broader conversation. We have to change the currency that we judge radio by, other than a few panelists. And it's ridiculous. I mean, if we'll take Denver, for example, where there's about 2,000 installs and 1,000 to 1,200 of them, only 1,000 to 1,200 qualify for in-tab in the month. And out of that, I've done the heavy, deep analysis. About 20% of them actually push all of the AQH around. You're talking a couple hundred meters. And you can catch a panelist, and all of a sudden it changes your fortunes. It can make a bad radio station look okay for a couple of months, but then you can look at that auto stage data and go, no, they're still 12th and 13th every single month. And you go, so do you believe the 65,000 in the DTS auto stage sample in Denver, or do we believe the 200?
Okay. You're right to a certain extent. But what DTS doesn't do is measure streaming at all, and so in office and at work and things like that, you're not getting that. And if you happen to work for a company that say has its own app and does that sort of thing, I mean, obviously that information is really important.
Okay, but hold on. Are you going to tell me that those 65,000, when they get out of their auto stage enabled car, that their preference level changes?
That's why I said you're right to a certain extent. But that's not just all the listening. I mean, the danger is until we can find a way to combine streaming data, because a lot of radio stations are just listened to online. And until we can find a way to combine the streaming data with the DTS stuff, then we got real ratings. Then I think that's what the ratings are.
The only thing I'll add to that, Greg, is I will tell you this. My streaming cume for the month is bigger than said station's Nielsen cume. And then they try to tell me that they pop up in the top 5, and that's where I go. That is what we have to get away from. And we have got to stop programming our music and running our radio stations on a very poor currency.
Yeah, or maybe just try and be great, and I promise the audience will come. Forget all that shit. Just try and be great. It'll be fine.
Well, yeah, it's like stand up and do what you believe in. And unfortunately, there's so few people who will actually do that anymore.
But they could.
Well, we've talked a lot about music, but what about the stuff around the music? What about promotions? What about personality? Like, what are some ways that being disruptive can work? What is disruption in terms of a radio station? So many of us don't control spot loads, but what are things that can be done?
Yeah, okay. My general feeling is that, like I said, there's a million right ways to do this. But in general, the combination for winning radio stations is they have an air staff that communicates really well with its audience. It's engaged promotionally in its audience. It helps to have a marketing budget. But again, there's a lot of different formulas that you can have to be a successful country radio station. But what you really can't be is just bland and invisible and not be community oriented. I think all the really successful radios, I think half the success, I mean, I love what he does musically, but when you listen to the stuff that he's doing between the records, it's still pretty damn good. And I think that's still a large part of what we all have to do. And I think that there's lots of ways to program music, but it's really hard to win if you don't have really good people and a really good connection with your market.
And especially with the current climate, both politically and with AI causing such disruption, study after study after study, you can see people are longing for community and in-person community. I think right now for radio there is such opportunity to create that, to capitalize on it. You look socially, engagement is down, and there's so much AI slop out there that people are just pulling back. I mean, I have a 15-year-old stepdaughter and her little group of culture kids in Williamson County. I see it all the time. They're wanting more tangible things. They're actually listening to radio more. So I think about how do I get artists into market? How do I get the station to help connect with that artist, and then they can, be whisperers and everything else. I think radio has such a unique opportunity right now with what is going on to do that, but it does sometimes take some marketing, takes some effort, takes some longer days.
I think we cannot lose what John just said. I honestly think radio should support who supports them. There are artists that I can't get liners from. What is that? How does that work? You don't really want to be on the radio if you don't want to give me a liner.
You should try during their pretend push week. I bet they cut it for you.
Yeah, well, that's probably true. But I also think that there is a segment of some new artists who don't even appreciate what radio is, and the music company goes, "Wait a minute, we could make more money if we put you on the radio," and we still can't get necessary cooperation. We get fewer concert tickets than we used to get. There's promotion budgets have shrunk, obviously. So I really think radio should work with the artists that want to work with them. And that isn't necessarily every artist. Analyze all those relationships. Are they really helping you? And if they're not, then why are you wasting your time?
John, you mentioned AI. I want to ask each of you, where is AI helping you, if it is, and in terms of a disruptive technology, and where is it either creating slop or disrupting in a negative way?
I would say AI is great at helping you analyze large data sets quickly, because you could not get through all of that data. The idea of it being involved, though, to create a playlist and all that, no way. I have no desire for that.
Greg?
I don't know if I'm smart enough to use AI. I think it's great for idea starters. I've tried to write some stuff using AI and have it churn something out, and it always sounds really kind of stick in the mud, sort of, like I could have done that myself in about 2 seconds too. So I use it sometimes. So I'll go, give me a list of something, and you can sometimes get it to generate lists of things that might be appropriate. I don't know that it has, I don't think AI can pick records very well. Maybe better than me, I don't know. But not most of you, I'm sure it's not better than that.
John?
Well, when you're looking at it from the music creation side, to an extent, there's always been some form of AI, whether it was Pro Tools or whatever. But I'm thinking more and talking more about the actual visual content creation or whatever else. It's all a derivation of something, so you can have a vanilla aspect of it. It becomes very easy to crank that all out. And if it's just pure volume, of course, there's going to be a lot of shit there. So to Brian's point, we use it and really want to be at the forefront of our day-to-day operations, becoming more efficient, creating more time for what? To be more genuinely creative, to have more time with partners. So it's an efficiency thing that hopefully gives us more time to actually really connect in an authentic way or whatever.
Yeah, large data, I think it's really good for large data tasks to free up time for creativity. I'm not sure that, it can be incredibly helpful, but we're in the human connection business, so we need to be human and use AI to do the stuff that's not part of the art. Also probably not use it to, Greg, I love you, man. But come on, let's be human, not be running cornball liners about guaranteed human. Let's really.
A real person voice those lines.
I think it frees up time. I think it frees up time for the art. You got to have time for the art, and that's the struggle of everybody in this room. There's so much stuff to do. It's hard to be creative.
And can we actually just go back and listen to music? Listen to the albums.
Right.
I'm telling you,
100%.
I'll tell you right now. I'm just going to drop this little nugget on you guys. "Empty Words" by Corey Kent. I'm telling you, he's about to have a Teddy Swims, Chris Stapleton moment.
Right.
Go back and listen and put it on your radio stations. I'm not working for them. I just believe in the song that much, and you can go and play it.
Okay, you guys don't. What you probably don't realize is this panel is a subset of something that happened about 10 years ago inside of iHeart. We were basically not supposed to do this, but we did it anyway. It was us and Travis Moon and Steve Stewart and Lance Houston and all the guys who were.
All the great guys that got blown out, like me and Brian. Is that what we're talking about? Where are we going with this?
They have a different career path. No, we used to do this all the time. Sit there and bitch about all the have you heard this song? Have you heard that song? And eventually some of that stuck, and we started to do it ourselves because, and I know, although I hear a lot of record people clapping out there, let's be honest, sometimes all we did was piss you off. But again, there's better singles out there than necessarily we are given, and there's lots of reasons why some songs are chosen as singles. Some of them might be good reasons. But
You know, you can play more than one song from an artist at once, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Right.
Just
The
remember.
audience knows the songs. Maybe
Just
we should
remember,
try
Well,
it.
and that's the thing where we've missed the boat, right? Okay, so we play a record, and by the time we get into a good rotation, the artist has already gotten bored with it and has put out 3 Grat tracks, and one of them might be just brilliant, and it's like, God, I really wish I'd be playing that instead. But because we are so nice to our label partners, we continue to run that single up the chart when we know there's a better single sitting
But
behind it.
when you
Are you saying we
when
can
you're
stop doing
saying
that?
nice, well, I always have. I think most labels too. We don't want something sitting in overnights for 15, 20 weeks, and because that costs us money for sure. But it would be about going, we're actually going to put something in a rotation and get a real read. I remember years ago when Bruce Logan was in Charlotte, he says, I'm going to try something different. He goes, you're all going to be pissed off, but he goes, I'm going to put records in and get a real read, and if it's not there, it's out. And I'm like, great. He goes, oh yeah, you say that till you're climbing the charts, and then, oh, you're going to blow up my record. And I can't remember honestly what it was. He played it early, played it a bunch of times, got a real read, and then dropped it. And a week goes by, and 2 weeks goes by, and he called me and says, are you mad at me? I said, for what? He goes, well, you didn't call me when I dropped whatever. I said, no, I'm glad you got a read on it. Looking for evidence that is happening elsewhere. I'll get off the damn thing, and we'll save money. And he's like, oh, okay. So, I mean,
We're going to say the same thing.
well-
you want to go ahead?
Well,
I know
mean,
what you're gonna say.
I will tell you
Yeah,
this.
that you're a unicorn.
Oh,
10 years ago on one of those secret calls with Greg and Travis,
By the way, Bruce Logan, another great mind that got blown out. Super good guy. Love him.
um,
Hall of Famer. God bless Bruce Logan.
yes.
Bruce.
Greg used to say at that time, as the format started becoming more singles driven rather than artist driven, and that's the thing we're talking about, building artist careers. But Greg would say, we're running the risk of becoming a mile wide and an inch deep, and I remember that well. And it's funny that how we led off with the spins at the top, and here we are. We're a mile wide and an inch deep with very few superstars now.
That's unfortunately it's the music company's model. It has to be, because that's how they make their money. They need more artists streaming and more artists touring to continue to make a lot of money.
I'd rather have deep than wide, honestly, because your cost of capital, your startup, your investment is amortized over time. Jason Aldean is a phenomenal investment because it's 15 years of whatever, and not every song has been, a slam dunk in whatever metric you have, but we did together build this artist. So, I like representing a lot of acts, but when it gets down to it, if it was deeper, that's a better economic model for us.
And
honestly.
again, if everybody had your model, I think we'd probably be a little better off. But that's unfortunately, there's labels that are not as successful as yours who have this need to keep churning new things in and get them going and get them streaming, get them touring, and that's where. The other thing that drives me crazy is that we take longer between releases from superstars than we used to. We were talking about, we have the same kind of number of number ones. We also have more artists getting number ones than we ever used to. And for whatever reason, but I think it's somewhat priorities, I would much rather, there's not a risk of playing the next Jason Aldean record. That's not risky. That's not being a disruptor. It just, the problem is with other labels sometimes, well, we're going to sit on this for about 4 more weeks because we got a release schedule, or we got to put some other records out in between, so we don't want to work that record too. And I'm like, no, if I'm coming off, that's why I love the fact that Ella Langley's going to go boom, boom like this and get the next record out immediately. We're not going to screw around. We should do that with all the stars, all the people we really believe in. Give me the next one now, because you know who's got it? The audience has it, and the audience has had it for like a month, and we're sitting around pretending something's new a month later.
How much, though, is the analytics-driven signing explosion that happened over the last 5 years, how much did that put us in this position, and are we going to recover from that, or are we going to keep going that direction?
It's a phenomenal point. That absolutely drove a lot of the environment we've been in, but I think in many aspects of the business, we recognize that can be very short-term and very temporary and lead to that mile wide. I mean, it was getting so insane out there. People were signing artists having no clue if they could perform live, you know? And the checks just kept getting bigger and bigger, and there was a chase. I think, thankfully for all of us and for the listener, that has slowed down. People are, you know, executives now are looking more at the full picture and taking a minute and breathing and saying, is this an artist, capital A? And there's subjective judgment on that, but at least it's that calculation, not, ooh, let's squeeze this orange for everything it's got and then throw away and the next one will be here, because that's not good for anyone. So you're right, Chuck, but I think we're seeing the other side of that. Now when we're looking at artists, touring is a big aspect of my decision. Are they willing to go out there and be in a van and eat ramen noodles and dial into their audience, figure out what their sound is, build relationships, market to market to market, because that is a separation. It's easy to be online and be social and be digital, and it's absolutely an aspect of it, but who really wants it and who is willing to grow that way?
Questions? Jen Schaefer on the mic.
There we go. Okay. All you guys have a ton of equity in your companies to do things your way. Can you share words of guidance for programmers who lack the stature with their organizations? How do you start to be more committed to disrupting how things have always been done? What actual words do you use?
I say you have to be willing to walk away. You know, when I started with Benny way back when, I always say I spent 75% educating him, 25% doing the job, and I was ready every day for him to say, I'm tired of hearing about you. Carson James and I called it the filibuster. We'd get him in a room and just wear him out, and he'd finally say yes. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to risk walking away for what you believe in.
And I think if you can't explain the plan, it's probably not a great plan. So be clear, concise, make your points. I mean, if the plan is great and you're working for a dum-dum that won't sign off on it, cool. Then keep that job until you find one that doesn't have a dum-dum that won't sign off on a great plan.
At Cumulus,
I
when
can do
your
it without
contract
cussing,
is up.
Chuck.
At Cumulus, right, when your contract is up. Then
Let me just
find
tell
it.
you, man, look, work for whoever you want. I'm just telling you. It's where it's at. And I've been fired by all of them, I'm telling you. John Dimmick is the shit. I'm just telling you. Greatest dude on the planet. So is Brian Phillips. Stand by it.
Not to get back to the topic, I would say start small. Stand up for something you really believe in. Is Rod in the room? Rod, you're never going to get mad at anybody who wants to add one record they strongly believe in, are you? I don't think you ever have. Matter of fact, we've discussed this in iHeart Country. Why won't our guys take a shot occasionally? I mean, I think we want it. Start small and be right. It helps when you're right. I mean, if you're wrong a whole bunch of times, you probably shouldn't be doing that. But you should start small and be right.
And in fairness to everybody, people are afraid. You know, it is a very challenging time. So I can see where, people are afraid. But I think if you bring it up in the right way, and then if they tell you no, okay, great. But you got to start somewhere. I agree with Greg. You start small. I totally have complete empathy. Chuck, I can be sensitive, man. I have empathy. People are afraid to lose their gigs.
Sure, and analytics and numbers and research and streaming and all of that stuff is a way to sort of justify not taking risks, right? And say, look, it's not me, it's what the numbers showed.
Yeah, okay, but again, that sounds like someone with no plan. It's just, I just got a bunch of numbers.
I'm not saying it's right, I'm just saying it happens.
Okay, for the PDs, Do you all struggle with finding music directors who have any kind of vision and are willing to fist fight the PD to get a record they believe in on? And if not, what's the one thing you look for in a music director besides the ability to turn out 6 logs for 7 stations?
That helps, by the way. I have never had a problem arguing with a music director. I've had some pretty good ones. Is Travis Moon in the room? Yeah, it's like, I sure as hell hope. I'm glad that you get to listen to so many records. I wish I had as much time as I used to have to listen to music. I count on that. Pat Knight and Rich is doing Minneapolis, but Pat Knight is I'm sure you all know, is as opinionated as anyone. So he was your guy first.
Yeah, Pat Knight worked for me, and now I have the best PD in the world, and Sean Patrick on KYGO, and that guy knows music better than anyone, especially in this format, and just a delight to work with, and we just have incredible conversations about the creative process to the production on the records. I mean, we go through everything. We genuinely just listen. We both love music, and a lot of times when labels like, hey, what are you doing then? And it's like, well, have you talked to Sean? I'm not going to usurp his power on that because he's really good at what he does. And you have to trust those people too. And that's the other thing is when you go back, you have to earn that trust too from, I'm not suggesting you walk away. We all need to make a living. But you do have to gain that trust and go from there. And also, I'd be remiss to not mention Big Mike, who we've added to the programming staff too, who is just a genius programmer and what he's brought to the table. But yeah, get great people that listen to music and listen to your people.
Okay, this one's for Travis.
Oh, good. I was hoping for that.
It's not bad. Is Travis saying forget the research and just follow your gut, or let your own instinct be justified and backed up by research?
I'm saying that if your gut and your plan and your strategy is right, the research will back that up. I think if you let the research dictate your strategy, you're probably going to be in trouble in a hurry. Make the strategy first and use the research to guide the strategy. Did that make sense? I said it and I feel like it didn't make sense.
I think it's right.
What stations do you guys pay attention to? Who do you look at and go, wow, they're really, we talked about this a little bit, Brian.
KDF.
KYGO? I mean,
KEY, actually. It's funny, though. I will look at other stations to kind of see. It's not so much following a specific station. It's like, okay, did they play a song? And especially if I know they have good, call out good data, what happened after they started playing that song? Did they see success? Because, again, every market is different. Denver, we have that Red Rocks effect, so we probably get to play a lot of things that, other people, we had this conversation about the health of the format. The format loves to say, oh, we're so healthy. Look, country artists, we got the most concert tickets sold, the most streams, the most that. But then 3 of those artists, meaning Zach Bryan and Tyler Childers, who are listed as country, the format's not playing. So we're taking credit for things that aren't really happening format-wide. And so that's where I go back to. It's like we're really looking at what does our market want? Are we reflective of that audience? And I think it is a very different audience than, say, what he's doing.
I play Tyler Childers. Get off me, man.
I'm not. I'm just saying the format in general.
No, I know. I agree.
Not you.
The format is missed completely on Tyler Childers, by the way. Let's fix that, won't you? Okay. We can. It's in our power.
Okay, I have one. This last one, it's a good one. In the spirit of disruption, given that radio continues to be the #1 reach medium, and yet the market revenues continue to decline each year, from your side of the table, what can the sales side of the building do better to disrupt?
I'll start with this one. Part of why people are afraid is the volatility of Nielsen. And every time if your rating goes down, are you really going to say, well, damn it, Brian, you played that Corey Kent record. That's why we went down. It's like, so then every time we go up, is it because of all the new songs we play? Well, it's the same thing on the sales side. We have, like I said, I'm going to go back to auto stage. I'm going to harp on it a little bit. You don't have the volatility anymore. And it really does add some consistency, and you can actually see what is happening in the market. And just by show of hands to get what I'm going here, how many of you have iPhones out here? Okay. Now, when you download an app and that app comes up and it says, will you allow this app to track you across websites you visit and everywhere you go, how do y'all normally respond to that? No. So, again, do we really think that if someone comes along and says, I want you to carry this device with an accelerometer and a gyroscope, and it's going to just track the things you're listening to, how confident in this world of heightened privacy concerns, how do you think that's going to go for most psychographs and anyone with more than $5 in their pocket? They're not participating, so.
All right, I think things we learned. Here are the big takeaways. Travis Daly has a heart, Brian Michael has a brain, Greg Swedberg has courage, and John and I just want to go home. The Disruptors, thank you guys. Have a great rest of the day.